This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have an awesome guest. He is one of the most dedicated fantasy football commissioners on the planet, host of the Commissioner Evaluation podcast. It's John McGlynn. Welcome in, buddy.
Thanks for having me here, Dr. Kevin Murray. This is absolutely fantastic. This is like a dream come true being on a fellow commissioner show. That doesn't happen very often, so thank you very much.
It does not. No, it does not. But now your passion for running fantasy leagues and maximizing the league experience for your league mates is incredible. Where did all that begin? When did you fall in love with being a commissioner?
I tell you what, I started a long time ago when I was in leagues with my brother's friends in the mid to early 90s. And, it was redraft. It was a bunch of neighborhood guys. It was the infancy of like fantasy football as far as in my life. And you do the best you can to draft and make some trades in the season. It just seemed like right before the trade deadline, like which was usually like week 9 back then, maybe even week 10, all these guys, it would be always somebody like pizzas and beers for your guys, and it'd make these super teams right before the end of the trade deadline. I'm like, this is such crap. So I did it for a couple of years until I finally won the league. Me and Sean Roach, my team was called Fat Bug. I'm fat, he's the bug, Roach. So we had a cool team. We won it, and I started my own league. With a bunch of my friends, and I said, oh, we guys, we're going to start like making this fair. Like the trade deadline is going to be like week 8. We're going to try and make this like a more so people want to come back every year. Not it's cheating or. You have these same guys that make these super teams every year. It's all just good friends, which no matter what, you know how it is in fantasy football. Somebody's going to piss somebody off because something happened, but we did the best we could. So as years went on, I kept making more and more articles for this. My friends call it like a manifesto, I guess, a rule book for my fantasy football leagues. And now it's like 17. I could share it with you guys. I'll send it to Kevin and you guys can look at it too if you want to on his page but it's like 17 articles, and there's some of them are like 7, Article 5, Section 17B is this, that, and the other. Like, after all the things I've learned the hard way from being a fantasy football commissioner in the past, it's just everything just kind of came together with this league, with these bylaws, and now it's unfolding in leagues that I do now, which are called the Mighty McGlynn Dynasty Home Leagues, which I run right now. My next league is starting this Sunday, actually, with a bunch of guys from the Chicagoland area getting together for another Mighty McGlynn, number 8 Mighty McGlynn Home Leagues. So just happens. It kind of just keeps going.
How many Mighty McGlynn leagues are there?
There's 8. There only one of them has had kind of a I left one of them because of some situations with with brothers and real good friends and stuff like that. It got to be too much drama, too much this and that. So other than that, the rest of them are they're all standing. They're all great. What I do is I went on Twitter. I said it's super important that people leave their hometown or their city or their state anyway, where they're at, because I comb Twitter for like people in my area, and I filled up. This is the 8th league now with Illinois people on Twitter who are actually podcasters or writers or fantasy football players. So my leagues are not like my grandma and my aunt and my 12-year-old niece, that wanted to play fantasy football. It's people who are like dedicated. Like, it was Mike Tagliere before he died. It was, James DeVran Catullus. It's Nick Scripp. It's Pat Fitzmaurice. It's, all kind of Scott Sidlow. It's all kind of good people in this community who really know their stuff about fantasy football. And a lot of leagues, but these are home leagues. So we get together, we do fantasy, we do, rookie draft lotteries. We do all kinds of stuff in person every year. So I had to schedule like 16 or 18 events every year with each individual leagues. And, I enjoy doing it. It's my kids are older now. I could never do this as younger because I had 4 kids. So this has become more and more passionate to me because it's something I was never able to do when I was younger. So I love doing it. I love being part of these leagues. And it makes me happy the more and more I get to invest time in it now. That my youngest kid's already 18 years old, going to college right now, and I have a 26-year-old. So I'm a little bit older, but I'm still 48, so I'm not that old myself. Like I don't think I'm that old myself, but I got a lot of time to enjoy this hobby that I really finally have time to invest in.
I love it. It's a fantasy dream to have those kind of leagues, those leagues that are just super engaged and have have the people that you've had in there. I mean, you definitely have guys that have been dedicated to the industry. I bet you it's a ton of fun to playing with them.
It's super fun. It's super fun. It's just having nice guys who you could bust each other's 10 teams on the internet too, like show trades. Oh, Nick said this, or Tommy said this, or Scott said that. So we joke about each other on Twitter, stuff like that too. As long as on the league chats and in person too, having a couple beers at our league parties and our draft lotteries and stuff. So yeah, it works out great, man. It's some people hunt, some people fish, some people, and I still go on. I've gone on tons of family vacations with my kids. I've seen 43 states in the United States of America with my kids. We've gone on tons of vacations. I've always made like our family stuff the priority, but these fantasy football leagues are just my like favorite hobby in the world. There's not even a close second like hobbies. I don't do like golf or fishing or stuff like that. This is my passion.
Well, I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's a pretty fantastic hobby as well, for sure. So, did you grow up as a massive football fan? Did that start early?
I grew up watching. My dad never really was a sports fan. My brothers were. I think my older brother Andy was probably the most avid sports fan, rabid sports fan you could think of. Like he would listen to the White Sox game while George Michael's Sports Machine was on TV while he was doing his homework, and he collected baseball cards, and he kind of set the stage for how important sports are to somebody. Like, man, his passion for sports was kind of what got me going. So, but we watched football. I remember, I think the first Super Bowl I watched was the San Francisco 49ers and the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals still had the old Bengals helmet on the side of their head, kind of stuff like that with the Icky Shuffle or whatever. I think, it might have been the first year they had the new helmets. It was one of those early Super Bowls like that I watched. And I'm like, I watched football my entire life. I played football all the way through my, into college. I've watched football with my kids. I've coached my kids on their football teams. I've done fantasy football. I've done everything football my entire life. I love this sport. Nothing can deter me from not watching games of football. Nothing that goes on or off the field in football. Really, the love of the game for me is second to none.
I love it. And that has led to you with the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast. Tell us what that's all about.
It's a year-round show. I do in season. We do waiver wires and injury news. We evaluate teams every week. We from one of our home league teams, we'll import somebody's team and say, "Hey, this guy's in the middle of the pack. He finished, 7-6 this year," or like, "Hey, it's week 7. This guy is already 0-6. What should he do to trade this team? How do you make it? How does he make it better? Who should you trade for picks?" Usually, it's more of an off-season thing when we evaluate teams, because at that point in time, guys are already kind of during the season. There's more things to talk about. It's a lot more. It's like a finally two well-oiled machine during the season about waiver wires and pickups and injuries, and there's a lot of things to talk about. So most of the time in the off season, we'll go into evaluating teams, but it's fun to do it in season too. But it starts out just introducing new people in the community. That's our first couple minutes, and then we talk about other commissioner things that happen, what people like as far as their settings, how many people they like in their leagues, anything you can think about it that I have. I'll pick out different rules in my articles and say which ones. What do you think about this rule? What do you think about this? My draft lottery. What do you think about like waiver wires? What do you think about like fab budgets? Just things that some people. You'd be surprised how many people still like waiver wire as opposed to fab, like things like that we take for granted. That like, oh, nobody does waiver wire anymore. But people still do those things like that. So the more simple you keep this, sometimes it's more beautiful for the people that are just enjoy fantasy football. You never know. And you can never league shame somebody. One man's diamond, one man's garbage is another man's gold. I guess that's the old saying that people say. Let people enjoy fantasy football the way they like fantasy football. They grew up playing this with their friends, and this is the way they've had it for 30 years. They don't want to change it. Don't try forcing your rules down their throat because they like it the way it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I love my rules, my sets of rules, my things, and that's what my commissioner evaluation is. Just kind of find out what other people like, and it goes. Every Tuesday or Wednesday, or I have this messed up rotating 12-hour shift schedule. So sometimes I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights, and I don't have time, and I'll do it on a Tuesday, or I'll miss a week once in a while. But I do the best I can to try and put out a quality product or a quality show like every week. At least 2 weeks would be the max that I go without putting a show out. I'm on like show 80, I think, right now, or 81 or something like that. So it's great. I don't just make 5 shows a week, kind of throwing stuff out there. I just enjoy it. And some of my shows, Peter Howard was on there one time. It was like a 4.5-hour show. I'm like, nobody's gonna listen to the show, Pete. Like, sorry, man. It is what it is. But some shows go like literally like in 40 minutes, which is like a record time for the way we blab on my show. So it's I just enjoy doing it. It's just so much fun talking to guys like you in this community, and then it leads into the expo stuff, man. It just doesn't get any better than this.
For sure. No, and again, I love the show. I think it's incredible, and I had that privilege to guest on it, and it was a ton of fun. So anybody out there that wants to get on that show, I definitely highly recommend it. So as a commissioner, what's your favorite part of being a commissioner?
Just finding out what other people. When I first started these leagues, I was so afraid of complacency or kind of like the lull periods or it getting boring. So I would make a lot of trades just kind of to spice the league up. Because if you see a trade in the middle of the offseason, all of a sudden, it's like blood in the water. All the sharks come out. They want to make trades and stuff too, So you figure that I had to create the spice. So I ruined a bunch of my teams early on, trying to make things spicy, trying to spice things up, trying to make it like, oh, this season never ends. I just like having leagues that everybody's involved in. And we'll get into some settings and stuff later on in the show, but it's I just like that everybody agrees that this is the way they want leagues to run. I enjoy being a commissioner because people enjoy being in my leagues. I guess that's the best way to put it.
I love it. Now share some of the cool things you do with your leagues, just to make them more special, make that experience unique.
See, I get a lot of people don't like divisions. And divisions are kind of it's a home league kind of thing because we have a division draft where we have 4 divisions with 3 teams per division, so a total of 12 teams. And the division winners every year have a division draft where they get to pick their opponents for the following year. So whoever the last place of the 4 division winners gets first pick, and it goes like that, and it goes a snake draft kind of thing. So if you get picked first, your team is absolute garbage. And you don't want to get picked first, but it's a way of just another way of camaraderie in our league to make fun of people or shame them. And some people want to rebuild. They're like, I don't care. And some people are really trying to have a lot of injuries and their team sucks. And people pick them anyway, just as a joke to kind of like rub it in their face that they're the first team that got picked, And then, we do draft lotteries where we show up. I got a bingo ball machine. And you get I think it's 40 balls. 46 balls for if you had the most, or if you had the least amount of max points for on the sleeper app, and it's 40 and then 25 and 12 and 16, 10 and 4, I think for the or 5 for the balls themselves. So we put in a bingo ball machine, and out of the drafts last year, you'd be surprised. The people who only had balls 1 to 5, 3 of those people got to pick 101 this year, which is kind of weird. So you could tank all you want to. It doesn't mean anything. You can have the worst record, the worst team, and the guys like Scott Sidlow from the Junkies, Fantasy Football Junkies. He was in the league and he totally tanked. And he had picks. He had enough. He had 72 balls out of 100 balls that we had, and he had ended up being pick 4, 5, and 6. So 1, 2, and 3, he didn't even get. He did the best he could to get all the balls he possibly could, and he was So it doesn't always work that way, and he was so pissed, But just being at the league drafts and seeing people's faces when they get totally run over like that, everybody's like, yeah, buying them beers and shots. Say thanks for the 101, buddy. Keep taking. Don't worry about it. Things like that you do in person. Just you can't do you don't have the same online experience, without being in person doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a true weighted lottery. I like it. I mean, it's randomized, but it's still, you're favored to get the balls, but you might not get them. So that's cool. Yeah. I love it.
And how about the winner of the league itself? Whoever wins the league gets to pick the rookie draft location. So you can pick your bar, your backyard. This year we're having it at Steven Johnson's pool in his house. He's like, oh, let's have a pool party at my house. Come on by. So. It's another perk that you get to, instead of traveling from Joliet to, Winnetka or something like that, or downtown Chicago or LaSalle County, anywhere in Chicagoland area is where everybody's from. If you win, you get to pick the draft locations. You can be your favorite bar or block away from your house instead of driving 30 miles for the draft.
That's cool. And then you get rings for everybody.
I do. Man, well, in a minute when we do this, I got rings to show you. I got a draft board I can show you. All this stuff. I buy these rings. Get them on Etsy. There's a lot of other sites that sell things, but they're like $25. Every year I buy the winner a ring. This year I had I don't know why I'm not prepared, man. Sorry, I worked at midnights last night. But
That's all right.
every year I buy the rings for the winner. It's out of my own pocket. So I get some rings. Sometimes I design my own, but it's they're engraved. It says your record, your team, how you did, what league it is, all that stuff. And you pick out a diamond, the color of the ring itself, and it's just kind of you walk in like Tom Brady with your rings on, like that's hey, it's just another perk of saying thank you for being in my league. It doesn't come out of the league fees, it doesn't come out of nothing. It comes out of my own pocket. It's just another thank you for everybody for being awesome league mates in the fantasy ball in my Mighty McGlynn home leagues.
Yeah, I love it. And that's the commish going over the top, which something I definitely I think is necessary. You want to obviously try to spark as much interest and engagement in your league, and sometimes it means you got to kind of step above and go the extra mile. So getting rings for everybody is incredible. Tell me about that draft board you just got.
So there's a company called draftkits.com, and I've been working with the guy for a couple of years on draft boards. I've been helping him with the names of the players. He was filling out a database, and I would give names from different sites that I see, and I say, hey, here's all the offensive players, here's all the rookies, here's all the defensive players. We need those too, kickers, anything, the defensive players. So as I've been working with him, he's like, hey man, thanks for helping me out. I'll get you this draft board. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. And then last year when the Scott Fish Bowl came, Scott Fish started doing the live drafts, and I said, hey, this guy Draft Kits is super awesome, man. You got to try him out. Do it. And it ended up being like the official, like not the, I guess the unofficial board of like the Scott Fish Bowl. This guy would send draft kits out to every one of the Scott Fish Bowl drafts for everybody to use. So it ended up being nice. So he made me a custom board with, it's my favorite quarterbacks of all time. It's Dan Marino and Josh Allen.
That's awesome.
And my commissioner evaluation symbol in the middle.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful.
It's a reusable board. It's 12 teams, 30 rounds deep. That's how my startups are. There are 12 teams, 30 rounds. On the top it says that Mighty McGlynn Dynasty League, Dynasty Home Leagues. It's got it's vinyl, so you get the stickers and you stick them on there. And at the end of the day, you take them off and bam. This is this year's Mighty McGlynn rings. Here's one of the old ones I used to get. It was, it's a little bit, you can't really see it too well on the camera, but now the newer ones, they're polished. They have
nice. Colored.
The names are on there, the league names, people's records. It's got all the stuff on the side, the championship stuff. So yeah, they're all, there's every different color in the spectrum on here. People get to pick out, I want a green, I want an orange, I want red, brown, purple.
And you get those on Etsy, huh?
Yeah. So this is a black one, black gem.
Nice.
So it's just super nice. Another black one. But every one of them is engraved with every league that I run. And last year we had DeMar Hamlin, so we had co-champions in a couple leagues, which is some people decided to end their season however they wanted to. Every one of my leagues didn't end the same. There was two leagues that had ties. Another one used scoring from the previous week. Another one used scoring for the following week. Another used, scoring from so-and-so. Some people did a coin flip. Some people did like, there was tons of different scenarios about how to make this end the season. So again, there's no wrong way to do it. You shouldn't league shame to somebody if they decided to, make it all ties. It is what it is.
Yeah.
As long as everybody's happy with the outcome, that's all that matters. And really, it's two people in the championship that had to say so anyway, not the whole league.
Exactly.
So
for sure. No, that's the kind of thing to me. I mean, that's the league foundation is what fantasy football is all about, and going the extra mile with rings and custom draft boards and all that stuff does everything to maximize the league experience. So for you, when it comes to just maximizing engagement, are there any tips that you have, things that you recommend just to get the most out of a league?
Well, one thing with our league, which a lot of people don't like, is that I do waiver wires as soon as the season's over with. After our Super Bowl, our fantasy football, which obviously everybody knows is week 17. So week 18 comes, and then all the way through the NFL playoffs, all the way through the Super Bowl, waiver wires are open. And then the week after the Super Bowl, I close waiver wires because people do fantasy baseball, people do fantasy hockey, people do fantasy basketball, people coach sports in the summertime. My waivers are shut down right now. And some people are like, that's crap. Who would ever do that? when you're in a league with waivers in the summertime, how many waivers actually happen in your leagues that have waivers? Probably once every 2 weeks or more, maybe once a month, depending on what's going on. What's the point of it? And on top of that, a lot of my friends are cops and firemen and, doctors. One guy's a surgeon. He works for 27 straight hours sometimes, like doing surgeries. It's not really fair to somebody like me or like Nick Scripp, who he's got a computer. People work at a desk on a computer, and bing, something comes up. Adam Schefter says so and so got hurt. Somebody just run the computer, and an hour later he gets the waivers. When somebody who's a doctor or a fireman who's on a 24-hour shift, they don't have that access. So it's not really fair to everybody. So I shut it down, and then we have our rookie drafts, which ours are coming up probably in another 2 weeks or so. I have our startup draft, which I showed you draft board this Sunday. A lot of good people in there. But 2 weeks after that, we have as a matter of fact, at the Chicago Live Scott Fishbowl draft in Chicago, the same day, like most of the people are already in that draft. So I moved a couple of our drafts over. So all the guys in the fishbowl at the same location already. As soon as that's over, we have a 2-hour window to do one rookie draft. And then when one's over, we had our second rookie draft for different leagues. So I had 3 drafts that day, the Scott Fishbowl and 2 other rookie drafts for our leagues, all at the same location, with a bunch of other people that are all in the Scott Fishbowl, Chicagoland area. So it'll be like a whole event of awesome drafting.
What a day. That sounds exciting. I love it. So you said that you do like the bingo ball lottery. I think that's fantastic. I've always used that as well. Are there other ways that you determine draft order? Not necessarily you, or things that you've seen out there that you like, or that you think are fun or good things for a league?
There are good things. There are people used to use a 40-yard dash, and it's not really fair. When you were younger, it was fun when everybody still played sports and everybody was like in shape. But now, people are coaching football. Some people have injuries. Some people have other things that came. So it's not really fair. You have eating contests, and obviously, if there's an eating contest or a drinking contest, I'm kind of a shoo-in for both of those. As far as people doing different events are concerned, some people use a Kentucky Derby. Some people use like that. With the race, it's a computerized race. I'm not
10-yard,
10-yard,
100-yard rush.
Yeah, things like that. There's nothing wrong. Sometimes something as simple as for a startup anyway. What we do is I'll pull cards out. First of all, I'll have cards and I'll pull them out 1 to 12, and then I'll have people show up at a location because now you have pick 1, you have pick 2, you have pick 3. But that doesn't mean that that's where you're picking cards out in person. So there's on a table, there's all the cards again. We get together, have a couple beers, and we determine you could trade those picks away for next year's picks or this year's picks, and if you want to move up in a draft, or man, this guy he's gonna have 101 this year's draft. So you could trade your opportunities away, but for picking the cards. There's other things that I've seen other people do. As far as they had all their kids. They had all their kids like putting on a golf course, and trying to see who would have bet. And it's like, oh, well, this guy's kid golfs a lot more than this kid. So, but it was something they all agreed on. That the league voted on it. And there's 1 or 2 kids that weren't happy about it, but it is what it is. You get it sometimes. It's not always fair, but there's so many different things I've seen on the internet. But as long as your whole league likes it, that's really what it all comes down to. If you're okay with it.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is your league has to be excited about it, and if they are, it can be an asset to your league. And you're right, with physical challenges, there's definitely advantages. I think if anybody wants to get into the physical challenge type deal or method, the key would be to use multiple events. Pick 12, have everybody in the league, 12 people, pick a different, unique event, and then use all of those events together, accumulated, and then have results from there. I mean, there's a lot of creative ways to do it for sure, but sometimes less is more. Sometimes a bingo ball lottery is spot on exactly what you should do. And again, like the way you do it, if you do it live with the league mates, I mean, it's fun, it's exciting. You get that anticipation. Definitely a good way to go.
The neighbor kids on a block, they have a league, and they're all in like the chess club. So they had a chess tournament to determine their thing. I mean, you never heard of that before, but it was that they had a chess club, and they played. They had a whole bracket, and that's how you ended up being. The winner ended up playing everybody and beat. He had the best record. Yeah, and it was just something who would ever think of having a chess tournament to do it? But that's how they determine their draft order.
Sure, apply whatever your league's interests are. If there's a common interest, if everybody loves fishing, have a fishing derby. You know. Okay, so last place punishments. Are there certain punishments that you think are the best or certain ones that you think are just crazy and fun?
I think the best one is, we have only had a couple leagues, a couple times anyway. Standing on the side of the road with the sign that says, "I lost my fantasy football. I lost the Mike Tagliere Fantasy Football League, or I lost the my McGlynn League, Bavaro League, or whatever. As far as that goes." But I mean, those are the best ones because it's 1 hour of just pure shame on the side of the road, and we stand there a little bit and watch, or pull the car up and listen to all the people beeping and give him the finger. Some people actually gave the guy $20 for losing. It was pretty funny, but. Those are, I think that's the most fun, the most innocent one. And then put him a shirt on him. He has to carry a sign or wear a shirt that says, I'm the complete loser. The one was a sign, 1 year was a shirt, and the other one was a board, and the guy ended up breaking the board because at the end, so it was like, we're not going to buy another $80 board just for somebody to break it every year.
Yeah.
So, but there's some pretty cool punishments out there. I see the eating the pancakes at the restaurant. You got to eat like 30 pancakes or something like that, or in a 24-hour span, or you get credit for every pancake you eat or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kind of good punishments, but I think I think sometimes there's no such thing as getting carried away with those kind of punishments. As long as they're all in good spirit and it's not going to hurt anybody, and no matter how bad it is, the more it makes people laugh, and the more you get it on video, and the more you can show it like this, for the league camaraderie and the history of your league. You can show those pictures every year of the past losers and stuff. It just keeps leagues going.
Yeah, those memories you make are definitely things that fuel future seasons for sure. So in your expert opinion, what makes a great live fantasy draft?
The location. If you're sitting in a 95-degree garage with no circulation, and it's like everybody's miserable, and there's not your beers are getting cold, stuff like that. You got to find a good restaurant that's got good food, good air conditioning, you get good waitress, good everything. Just kind of and make sure that you have the startup draft, especially plenty of room. You don't want to bunch everybody together because people have sheets. Some people like the old-fashioned sheets where they have 10 or 12 sheets. They spread them out and see what's what, and look what's coming up next, and the running backs, wide receivers in the top 450, things like that. So most people are using laptops nowadays. I try not to. What I try to do is I try not to import it on the computer itself until the draft's over with, because I don't want people to use apps from Fantasy Pros or some other place that has these apps that you could download. It tells you who to draft next. So I like to have it where, before for a while, you can only bring paper with you, no computers at all. It was just cheat sheets. You make your own cheat sheet for a draft and cross it out. You can't see if nobody's injured or if this guy didn't sign yet. You have to know all that stuff before draft shows up, and you can only have paper and Sharpies, and colored markers on your table. But getting people space is the most important thing. People want the privacy. They don't want to see who you're picking up. I remember going to draft one time in our neighborhood. I was in Westmere Point Fantasy League, in my neighborhood league, which I had commissioned that one. Also, it was just a neighborhood league for my subdivision. And this guy showed up, Matt Janiak. I'll never forget this. And I had all my guys highlighted, who my go-to guys. It was Sean Alexander and whoever was that year. And this guy comes in he came right from work. He's like, I had to work overtime. Sorry, guys. No magazine, not even, no sheets. No, this is probably 15 years ago. So, it was this how I'm dating myself on the magazine and stuff like that. But I had these sheets all printed out, everything highlighted. I'm like, you can use my sheets. Just come on over here. And this guy's sitting next to me, taking all the guys I have highlighted when I'm like, dude, you can't take these guys. He's not even close to where you're at. What are you doing? Like, this guy won the league that year with taking my guys that I had highlighted on my own sheet when I was just trying to help him out. I'm like, you son of a, but that's the way it works sometimes. It is what it is. And I've had other people show up, and they have magazines. And I remember when Emmitt Smith retired, and this guy had a magazine. Emmitt Smith was still ranked there. So his second round pick was Emmitt Smith or something like that. We're all laughing at him like, but it ended up where, because his team was so bad, he got first crack at the waiver wire that year. And I think that was the first year when Sean Alexander got put in, and he went nuts. He had 27 touchdowns, and Kurt Warner was the quarterback when the greatest show on turf that year too. So all these guys just fell to him because he had first priority pick on the waiver wire every week. So next thing you know, but he was 0-4 or 0-5, but he just picked up 4 studs, and now his team is like an all-star team. And the rest of the year and the playoffs, he just steamrolled everybody and won the league by drafting a completely shit team. So
You
It was
gotta love fantasy. You
funny
gotta
how
love
that works.
fantasy. Yeah, those are great stories. I like that kind of stuff. All right, name 3 people in the fantasy community that have just had a huge impact on you over the years.
I might have to say my neighbor Mike Taglier was, it was super awesome doing things because I thought I was big shit in fantasy football when I moved. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear if I can't swear. But I thought I knew a bunch of stuff about fantasy football until I saw how much stuff he puts in there. I go to his house. Sunday morning at like probably 11 o'clock. Tabby would make something to eat for us. We'd watch football. Mike would have his 4 screens on there and the red zone TV. And the first hour from noon, the central time zone, from noon to 3 o'clock, we'd enjoy the games, eat food. Jonathan would be jumping all over us. His dog, Mitch would be all over the place. Our friends would come over. And then as soon as the 3 o'clock games were over with, Mike would walk back and sit at his desk and start his primer. It's like, it's like 40,000 or 70,000 word primer he had every week. He'd be watching. You guys don't leave. You can stay here, but I just got to start this work. He would do that primer from 3 o'clock until 7 o'clock. While we're all sitting there, he'd talk, watch the games, write stuff out that happened as things were going on. He'd take notes, and then he'd have a podcast at 8 o'clock at night. We'd all that was when it's time to go, but we'd leave because the Sunday night game was on, and he's still doing podcasts at 8 o'clock at night. I'm like, man, and I go to his house he'd get up at 5:45, go work out, come home, write an article, do a podcast, keep going on his primer. The guy was, he was a workaholic, a crazy workaholic to the T. I never saw somebody do so much and be dedicated to his work as much as Mike was. And I'm like, man, I'd love to do this, but with 4 kids and with my schedule of work and there's no way I could never be Mike Taglier. And just to see the work that actually people don't know, like, oh, this guy you got a job at Fantasy Pros or you got a job at Fantasy Football Unlimited because he did this or he knows this guy or whatever. People don't understand how much work the people who are on top put to stay on top and how they got there. First of all, it's not about nepotism or friends or sometimes you might help a little bit to getting from one place to another or here and there, but you're not going to stay there very long if you don't work your butt off. And Mike worked his butt off every minute of the day. And this is the same with when Mike died, like it was terrible. It was years of me just having fantasy football conversations, and we'd go golfing and talk about fantasy football. We do this and talk about, it was it was more talking, but I throw things off him. And he'd ask me about, like, what do you think about this guy? I'm like, dude, get out of here. There's no way that he's going to finish, in front of him, or there's no way that this quarterback's going to, be number 1 this year because this, that, and the other. And when he died, like a month and a half later or 2 months later, I met Nick Scripp out here. And Nick has got the same work ethic that Mike does. I don't know if you guys follow Nick Scripp on P2W Fantasy on Twitter, and he makes TikToks and Instagrams and all these other things like that. And he's fantastic with a computer. He does all kind of computer generated stuff. He's got his own Patreon. He's another workaholic. Every minute of that guy's day, he gets up in the morning, he does a workout video. He goes to work at break time, he does a video for TikTok. He works at 3 o'clock, comes home, does a podcast, he coaches. He's got a full-time job. He runs an entire soccer program for the high school out here. He's got a kid. He's just bought a new house. He's got all this stuff going on. And he doesn't miss a beat. It's go, 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 go. It's go. So I can't believe like the dedication and the time and the stuff that these people put into the stuff. They're not just there because they're not just good and had that many followers because they're, they try once in a while. They don't stop. They don't stop. They're like it's like watching a freight train at full blast all year long, 365 days a year. I don't have that dedication. I don't have that talent. I don't have the drive. I love this game, but I can't do that. I'm not a computer person either. So that's another thing. I'm not good at sheets or spreadsheets or, those kind of things, or computer animation. Like Nick makes these videos all the time. And another one, I think, for the third person, I listen to 50 podcasts a week, I have a job where hearing protection is required. So my form of hearing protection is earbuds. So my earbuds are constantly, I walk around all day at work, doing my tasks, doing my things with a fantasy football podcast playing from Fantasy Pros all the way to like something you never heard of before. people that just some kid who's got 7 followers that I just want to listen to his show, and I change stuff every year. Things change, or people get bored, or people change companies all the time. I don't really think I can name a third one because of the fact that there's so many good people in this industry nowadays. There's so many good, awesome analysts that are just the spreadsheet stuff nowadays.
Yeah.
What people do with their numbers and how they present things and how they come up with their numbers, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I can't name a third person just because there's so many out there. It would be unfair to say this person over that person or somebody else,
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm on the Nick script and Mike Tagliari. I mean, yeah, people are built different. And that's okay. Everybody's a little different. And when you say that there's so many people to choose from for that third spot, it's totally true. And one cool thing that you and I both experienced is that Fantasy Football Expo. I mean,
yes.
So talk about a collection of people that are different and unique, and everyone has certain talents and strengths and weaknesses, and it's such a fun event. What has that event meant to you over the last couple of years?
The first year I went there, I was super nervous. I drove there with Nick Scripp. I was supposed to be I had roommates with Mike Tagliari. That was my roommate. And he's like, hey man, I got COVID. I'm not going. And sure enough, I mean, he couldn't go. And I was busting his balls, sending pictures with me eating Hardits and this, all these people, Scott Fish and everything. And it ended up where I got back and he didn't answer my phone for a couple of days. And he sent me a picture with him with a mask on in the hospital. And I'm like, dude, what happened? Like, he's like, yeah, I got to stay here for a couple of weeks. And the mask wouldn't stay on. It would, so they intubated him, not intubate him. They put him to sleep, I guess, to kind of get his breathing regulated. And he just never woke up again. And I would send him messages like, hey, Mike, just, Pat Fitzmaurice taking over the primer right now. This is going on. Or, you're in good hands. When you get up, everything's back to normal now. Don't worry. This, everything's cool. And then he died. And it was like, man, it was kind of terrible. That was the first year of the expo kind of hurts a little bit just for that memory of like, me and Mike's situation. But the good side of it was I got to meet Scott Fish. I got to meet Ryan McDowell, who would probably be somewhere. Those two guys would probably be somewhere in like the third person category as far as awesome people, especially like Ryan McDowell. I think that guy just amazes me with what he knows. But to go around and shake hands, and the worst thing about it is here's my podcast list on my thing. I have literally 67 or 57 or whatever it is, all fantasy football based podcasts that I just flip through every day. And putting faces to these voices that I've only heard, because I don't watch videos. I don't have time for videos. Like everything's in the ear. So you hear a voice and you're like, I bet you this guy looks like this, or I bet you the guy looks like that. And then thank God for name tags. I walk up with Russ Fisher or, this guy, or I'm like, holy cow, that's what you look like, dude. It's, this guy's got a voice that sounds like, the Hulk, and it's a 5'3", 140-pound guy. It's like, dude, how does your voice sound like that? You put faces to the names, as far as that goes. And then I get on podcasts with other people or shows, YouTube video shows like with people, and I get to see their faces. And I remember them from the other thing. From the expo itself. But year one was so cool. I was afraid not to go year two because I thought it's gonna be the same thing again. We'll be sitting in the Oak Tree bar or whatever it is, or going to George's or sitting out at I'll give it a chance though. I'll see what I can do. And year two was like twice as good as year one. I had so much fun year two. I met twice as many people. I didn't think it could be top. Playing the football games on the field and having all the events, and then going to that outside, watching the football game, like outside on the patio, the first preseason game, the Browns game. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to year three also now, which I already have a room for. So I don't think it can get any better, but I'm not going to say it won't because it did such a good job last year. So.
Well, I'm looking forward to what we're going to say.
What was your favorite part of the expo? Because I really can't nail down one spot as far as that goes. What was your favorite part of the expo?
It's the whole experience to me. I mean, there's not one. I like the variety, the unique way that Bob has put together events. I enjoyed like the draft night out event. I enjoyed the night parties are incredible. And again, just meeting people for the first time, meeting people again. I've been fortunate to go to several events over the years. And so there's so many people that, that I will reunite with, that it's so much fun to me. Seeing people that are in the King's Classic, and then, the day of the expo, the panels. I mean, to me, the whole package is what it's about to me.
Yeah. Yes.
Pretty special. So I definitely look forward to seeing you at the event. Can't wait to see you in August. So Commish, where can people find you, find your work?
John McGlynn 75 on the Twitter machine. That's pretty much all that's really the only place I kind of post anything. I use the P2W YouTube, and I have my on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. That's where all my shows are at. So if you want to subscribe to the Commissioner Evaluation Show on Apple Podcasts, that's where my shows are at. But I'm bouncing around on people's shows every once in a while. It's just when I get invited to shows like this, this is what you have no idea. When I got the inbox, hey, would you like to be on a show? I was like, it's like going on a first date with a pretty girl or something like that. I don't know what kind of tingles you could even think of that would match this kind of thing. I love doing this. This is like something I was never able to do before, and I'm doing it now. And I just feel so lucky to be part of the universe of fantasy football with awesome people like you and all the other guys that have me on their show or come on that agree to come on my show just to talk fantasy football for an hour or so. That's one thing about the expo. I think a lot of people forget that. They think that when you go to the expo, it's all you do is they just talk about like who's running back 37 or who's running back. I don't think I talked about fantasy football at all the last 2 weekends with anybody. It was all conversations about our kids or what bar, or what, what kind of drink you drink in, or, hey, where'd you come from? What's your favorite food in your neighborhood? Stuff like that. It's like it's everywhere you go, you bounce off, and nobody talks about like who's the running back 7 or who doesn't. It's nothing like that. So if you're thinking about going because you're on the fence about what you know about fantasy football, the experience there is second to none because you just have a great time with really good people.
Yeah, and all these people on the Twitter, in the Twitterverse, come to life. It's great. I can't say enough good words about the expo. And for you, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. You are an incredible commissioner, and all of the stuff you do for your league mates. They're so lucky to have you. So, buddy, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Canton. We'll close it down here.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.